This offseason, coaching search, what do you think happens here, Adam?
Well, a big offseason for the New Orleans Saints. I also would expect that the organization would have some level of interest in the former Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Vrabel.
With the 2024 season finally coming to an end, with one more regular season game left, the Saints will have to start their head coaching search if it hasn't already begun. And one of the hottest names in this head coaching cycle is going to be former Titans head coach Mike Vrabel, who Adam Schefter reported last Monday night that the Saints could possibly be interested in him. And outside of Mike Vrabel, who are some other names the Saints could be interested in? You got Darren Rizzi, Aaron Glenn, Joe Brady possibly. Who knows? But a report from Rapaport would suggest that the Saints will once again hire somebody that they know and are comfortable with. Yep, you heard that right. Anyways, we're going to talk about the Saints head coaching search. Been sick over the past week or so, week and a half, and want to get caught up on some of the stuff that I missed. And one of them was Monday Night Report that Adam Schefter said the Saints could be interested in Aaron Glenn and Mike Vrabel, and some other head coaching front office news that's happened in the past week. And before we get into all of that, make sure you are subscribed to my channel. We're on our way to 10K. I want to hit it in 2025. That's one of the goals. Going to do a lot of live streams, shorts. It's going to be a busy offseason for the Saints with a whole new head coach, players resigning, maybe a rebuild or something on the way is for the Saints. So while you're here, subscribe. 72% of you who watch my videos aren't subscribed, want to hit 10K. So while you're here, might as well just help me out. It would mean a lot. And I think that's enough yapping from me. That's everything we're going to be talking about in this video. So let's get into it. First thing that I want to talk about is that Adam Schefter reported during the Monday Night Football pregame show of the Saints and Packers, which we don't need to talk about. He reported that the Saints could have interest in former Titans head coach Mike Vrabel, one of the hottest names in this head coaching cycle. And then another name the Saints need to keep an eye on, and Saints fans in general, is Aaron Glenn. Why don't we pull up the clip? This is what Adam Schefter reported on the Monday Night Football pregame show. I got the clip up right here. Why don't we review it? It's only like a minute and 48 seconds.
There is talent on this team. On the defensive side, for sure, they have some offensive weapons. They're banged up on that side of the ball. This offseason, coaching search, what do you think happens here, Adam?
Well, a big offseason for the New Orleans Saints, who were eliminated in the playoffs from the playoffs yesterday, Scott. And they're going to heat up their coaching search towards the end of this season. One of the candidates expected to be square on their radar will be the Lions defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn.
As expected, I think we all kind of knew the second Dennis Allen was fired that Aaron Glenn was going to be probably the hottest name on their radar. He was the only guy who they considered hiring last time when Sean Payton retired, when they were looking for a head coach. He was the only other guy the Saints considered hiring. He's doing an excellent job for the Lions right now. So, of course, Aaron Glenn's going to be a hot name to consider, and we'll talk about him in just a little bit. Let's continue watching this report.
Who's coached in New Orleans, has a history with the franchise. The organization knows him well. I also would expect that the organization would have some level of interest in the former Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Vrabel, and of course...
So that's a big one right there. Mike Vrabel, the Saints being interested in him. There are some reports saying that he was not interested in the Saints job, but if he does do an interview or 2 interviews with the Saints, obviously that means he would entertain the idea of coaching with the Saints. And a lot of us would like a young, innovative offensive coordinator like Sean McVay or Kevin O'Connell. Well, I think a lot of us are going to have to accept reality and be realistic that that is not going to probably happen. Mike Vrabel would be an excellent hire for this team. He took the Titans to the freaking championship as the #1 seed. He's a culture changer. He's a guy who's a hard ass, but in a good way. He'd be a good hire for this team.
There will be other names, and whoever takes over as the coach in New Orleans will have a major quarterback question. But right now, because this team is so strapped against the cap, Derek Carr is in line to be back next year. They don't have a lot of flexibility.
Okay, with that right there, with the whole Derek Carr thing, I think it's probably more realistic he stays than he goes. But I think if a new head coach comes in, tells Mickey Loomis that he wants a new quarterback, doesn't want Derek Carr, it can happen and it can work. But then you're just going to be stuck with all the other guys. And then in 2026, you're off Derek Carr's contract. He's off the books. And your cap space would look a lot better.
he makes the most sense, and it certainly looks like he could be back next season, even though he is inactive tonight, and Spencer Rattler will be starting at quarterback for him. And of course, there are the questions for this season with Alvin Kamara.
I think that's pretty much it for the coaching stuff. Yeah, the rest of this is just talking about like the weekend stuff, not about the head coaching search. So, Saints interested in Aaron Glenn and Mike Vrabel from this report by Adam Schefter. Now, something we're all going to have to keep in mind when it comes to the Saints head coaching position is that it is not an attractive opening. It is not an attractive job. As of right now, the Jets and Bears are the only team with open vacancies. That number is obviously going to increase within the next, week? Today is Monday. So within the next week or two, week and a half, those head coaching vacancies are going to be open a lot more. There's going to be more jobs. Teams like the Raiders, Jags, Giants, Cowboys, Patriots, Titans. These are 6 additional teams that the head coaching position could possibly be open. So that'd leave 9 total jobs, and I'd probably say about 6 of them are more attractive than the Saints. The Saints are near the bottom in terms of attractable jobs in the NFL, and if Mike Vrabel gets to choose where he wants to go, the Saints, I can probably bet good money, is at the bottom of his list. So while the Saints may be interested in Mike Vrabel, they probably won't get him unless no other team with the open head coaching job wants him, and I just don't see that being the case. But Mike Vrabel would be a home run hire. And as of today, December 30th, I'm recording this Monday night, Mike Vrabel's consulting agreement with the Cleveland Browns expired today, per league source, per Adam Schefter. So he is now open and available to talk with any teams. He is no longer under contract with the Browns. I didn't even know he was under contract with the Browns. So this time next week, we better see a notification saying the Saints have requested to interview Mike Vrabel. He is available right now. It doesn't even matter. Interview him tomorrow. This guy needs to be interviewed, and the Saints need to find a way to interview and just talk to him ASAP, immediately. This is a huge advantage the Saints could have over other teams when it comes to talking to one of the hottest names in this head coaching cycle. They need to jump on it right now. Probably not going to be this week. There's one more game they're getting ready for. For whatever reason, the Saints are still trying to win games, even though they're not going to win games. So next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I don't care. Sometime next week, we better see that Mike Vrabel, a guy who is available, is being interviewed by the New Orleans Saints, or they're scheduling something for the near future. So that's for Mike Vrabel. As for Aaron Glenn, he's obviously with the Lions, and they're on their way to a Super Bowl run. And if he does end up being the Saints head coach, they're going to have to wait till February to name him head coach. But when talking about Aaron Glenn, it does make sense that the Saints would be interested in him. He coached here as a DB coach. All the players loved him. I believe he played for the Saints. There's no bad blood between the two. It makes sense why the Saints would want him. And on top of that, he's doing an excellent job in Detroit. That Lions defense is banged up. I think the Lions have the most injured players on injured reserve or something this season. And the Lions are still finding ways to win games. Their defense is still being productive to this point. He deserves to be interviewed, and he deserves to be a head coach. Now, the only issue with Aaron Glenn isn't really even an Aaron Glenn issue, but it's the fact that he has ties to the old regime in the Sean Payton era, and the Saints and us fans are just tired of that, and we want the Saints to start over fresh, and it feels like hiring Aaron Glenn would just kind of be chasing the same Sean Payton culture feeling that Mickey Loomis has been chasing over the last 4 or 5 years. Now, I know that's a stupid reason to put against a guy who obviously is a really good candidate to be a head coach, but it's something that I think a lot of people are concerned about. He is a great coach. I think a lot of guys like him. Marshawn Lattimore loves him. Michael Thomas loves him. Alvin Kamara, I believe, had a good relationship with him. There really hasn't been any bad things said about this guy from players who have been coached by him. And for us to say the only issue with him is that he has ties to Sean Payton is stupid. But it also makes sense because this team needs new ideas and a fresh start. And it feels like hiring Aaron Glenn, it wouldn't be a lazy hire. It would just It sucks for the front office because he probably is the best candidate who they can hire, who would actually take this job. And it will exactly feel like they're trying to replicate what they have with Sean Payton. I wouldn't be mad at the Aaron Glenn hire. I got nothing against them. It's just, we just want something new. We're just kind of tired of this same old Mickey Loomis chasing continuity, just bringing new ideas. Opposite of Aaron Glenn, his co-coordinator, Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator. I'm sure a lot of you are going to want the Saints to go and hire him. Probably the hottest head coaching name in this cycle. We have a whole video covering this thing. The Saints were interested in Ben Johnson, it was reported. I don't think it happens. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We have a whole video covering everything you need to know about that situation and Ben Johnson specifically. But I don't see Ben Johnson being the Saints head coach happening. Now, other names to look out for when it comes to the Saints head coaching search. Joe Brady, the Bills offensive coordinator. He also worked for the Saints. 2019, he was at LSU. He's a name to keep an eye on. When that time comes, if they interview him, I'll talk about my thoughts about him. I have mixed feelings about him. Darren Rizzi, obviously, the interim head coach, he's going to be interviewed by the Saints front office for the head coaching job. And my personal opinion, I really think they should look at Buccaneers offensive coordinator Liam Cohen. He's doing an excellent job. Baker Mayfield is having a great year. The running backs over there are having a great year. He turned the 30th ranked rushing offense to a top 5 rushing offense. What he's done with Baker Mayfield, what he's done with the offense, I think he should be on the Saints' radar. Will he be on the radar? I have no idea. The Saints didn't even interview Kevin O'Connell in 2022. Man, I wish they would have done that. But maybe they learned from that lesson and they'll interview Liam Cohen. He should be on their radar for sure. Other guys, Mike McCarthy, if he gets fired, I'm sure the Saints will look at him. Vance Joseph, the Broncos defensive coordinator, I'm sure they'll look at him as well. Tom Pelissero Tuesday morning reported that John Gruden could be a surprise name to keep an eye on for these open head coaching spots, and also said that had he wanted the Saints offensive coordinator job last offseason, he could have gotten it. Mickey Loomis knows him. He fits the criteria. Man, am I hoping that they do not hire John Gruden. So there's not a whole lot of exciting names, I think, here. But it is what it is. You know, I think the Saints just need to have a thorough process. Be fair. Come into this thing, with no pre-made favorites like they did last time. And I think the Saints front office needs to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and getting new ideas. But they won't. And that'll take us to our next point and our next topic, which is that a report from Ian Rapaport came out going over the coaching jobs around the NFL and what's the latest buzz. And the Saints are obviously one of those teams. And what was in this article was very disappointing, but at the same time, not surprising at all. Here's what Ian Rapaport had to say when it came to the Saints. So, the Saints have begun gathering background on candidates to replace former head coach Dennis Allen, who was fired November 4th. The feeling in league circles is that general manager Mickey Loomis will lean toward someone he knows, with Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, who narrowly lost out to Dennis Allen last time. A frequent name mentioned, interim coach Darren Rizzi, is beloved in the building and expected to be a candidate, especially with the way the locker room, decimated by injuries, has continued to fight for him. Mike McCarthy and Bills OC Joe Brady have Saints roots as well, but the team is looking into all top candidates. So my biggest takeaway from this article is that how have you come to the conclusion, without interviewing anybody, that you should hire someone that you're comfortable with and that you know? The season's not even over. How are you already at this conclusion that you should hire somebody who you know? It would make sense if you interviewed, say, 7 people, 4 of them you know, and of the 7, those 4 people had the best interview. They haven't interviewed anybody yet. Why are you already to the conclusion that you should hire somebody that you know? I don't understand why this front office loves familiarity. I understand being comfortable, but, comfortable got you 3 straight missed playoff seasons with Dennis Allen. Get new ideas in here. Interview people you don't know. Get new ideas in the building, because obviously what this team is doing is not working. Mickey Loomis kicking the can down the road and paying a $40 million quarterback when you're going 5-11 and 5-12 and 8-8 for a team that's not competing for anything. Paying a quarterback $40 million doesn't make sense. Get new ideas in here. I don't understand why they need to be so comfortable. This is a business. What's going to make your business better? What you're doing right now isn't working. Get a new employer in here who you've never met before, who you're impressed by, and see what he can do. Interview Liam Cohen. Get him in the building if he is the best guy who interviews. Hire the best guy that you can. I just don't understand how they haven't even interviewed anybody, and they've come to the conclusion that they need to hire somebody that they know. This is the same BS that led to them hiring Dennis Allen. And even when you look at the names that they interviewed during that cycle, it was very disappointing. They interviewed Aaron Glenn, which that's probably the only non-disappointing name. Doug Peterson, Eric Bieniemy. I feel like I'm missing another one. There's not a whole bunch of memorable names. They didn't interview Kevin O'Connell. They tried to interview Brian Dable. I just don't understand the logic of trying to basically do the exact same thing you did last time before interviewing anybody. Just kind of feels predetermined. It just feels like, once again, they're trying to have continuity of a winning culture from 2006 and not having a thorough and true process to their head coaching search. Hopefully, this being put out by Ian Rapaport is just, a small little thing that he's hearing, as opposed to this is the truth, because the Saints cannot just interview Mike McCarthy, Joe Brady, Aaron Glenn, Darren Rizzi, and that's it. Like, interview some new guys. Interview the Chiefs QB coordinator, or the Bills wide receiver coach, or interview some different names, get different ideas, and go on from there. I know I'm just saying the whole thing over and over and saying the same stuff. I just find it hard to trust anything that this front office is doing, because right now this is a 5-11 team with $80 million over the cap, no good young players who have been drafted, and they are trying to run it back with the same process that they did last time in hiring someone they know and are comfortable with. Man, Mickey Loomis he's a problem. What does Mickey Loomis do? He didn't want to fire Dennis Allen. Gail Benson needs to fire him, and then she needs to sell the team. Like, this front office isn't good. We'll see what happens. Maybe things change. Maybe they interview more guys and they end up hiring someone they don't know. I just find this report really frustrating given where the team is at. Hopefully, though, things play out and we'll see. Luckily, though, the season is about over. The team can start looking at head coaching candidates, start interviewing with them. Hopefully, they get right on that and start talking to Mike Vrabel as soon as possible. But we'll see. That time will come in about a week. Until then, make sure you are subscribed to my channel, Cash Sports. We're going to have a long off season with the Saints. A lot of stuff to cover, so make sure you are subscribed so you're up to date with all the news. I hope you have a great, excellent rest of your day. Hope you have a good New Year's, and I'll see you next time. Peace.